When we think about modern dog training, we think about YouTube tips, rewards, complicated structures and training progressions, but it hasn't always been this way. You see, humans have been working alongside dogs for a very, very long time. So I want to know, what did dog training look like 1,000 years ago? To get a good understanding of this, we're going to have to look back in time and see what dogs were actually even used for back then. Nowadays, dogs are primarily family pets. They live in the house, we cuddle with them, they lay in bed, they're our buddies, but it really hasn't always been this way. 1,000 years ago, dogs were primarily used as tools, and they were thought of as nothing more than really farm equipment, at least by the working class. They were used for all sorts of jobs, from farm work to hunting to tracking, guarding, and many other uses as well. And the methods that they used were very different than what we use today. They were extremely unsophisticated, and they really relied mostly on the dog's instincts. These people would try to pick the best dogs that they could for the job. Whenever they did mess up, they would punish them pretty heavily, often using whips, kicking them, clubbing them, you name it, they did it to these dogs. And when they did come across a dog that just didn't really make the cut, even after they pretty much abused them into submission, they would often just kill the dog or abandon it in the woods somewhere. Because, like I said, dogs didn't hold a place in people's hearts like they do for us now. It was a very different mentality. 1,000 years ago, they did still have lap dogs in the nobility. They were there to look pretty and be an ornament and a status symbol for the wealthy, and also to warm their beds during the winter. Because remember, they didn't have insulation back then. But even these dogs that were living inside the castle and inside the living quarters of the wealthy, there's not really records of a whole lot of very sophisticated training going on. They did definitely potty train them. They wanted to make sure that they were pretty much completely still, almost like a living, breathing stuffed animal, but that's really about it. So with methods this brutal and unsophisticated, how did they see any kind of success? You see, dog training is really a balance between instinct and learned behavior. The stronger the instinct is, the less strong the learned behavior has to be, and vice versa. In today's day and age, we don't just kill dogs for not being perfect or for not being able to work. So really, the training success from 1,000 years ago was largely just based on instinct, selection, and elimination of dogs that didn't make the cut. But here's where it gets interesting. How did they have so much success with so little when we have such a hard time to this day? I mean, I get calls all the time from people that's all they want. They just want the dog to live in the house. They want him to lay there, be cute, keep the bed warm, all the things that the nobility were doing. But for some reason, their dog can't do it. And in order to make it work, I've got to break out every training technique in the book to try to make this round dog fit in the square training hole, I guess. Today, the role of dogs has pretty much completely flipped on its head from what it was 1,000 years ago, where back then, most dogs were working dogs and only the very wealthy had family pets, although I don't think they were really thought of in the same exact way. They were still kind of utilitarian. Today, it's actually pretty much the opposite. Pretty much everyone has a family dog at this point. Oftentimes 2, 3, 4, or 5. None of them are working dogs. The people that do have working dogs today are generally the wealthy. So it's exactly the opposite of how it was 1,000 years ago. And this is actually a major problem when you combine it with the fact that we don't base things on elimination anymore, and we do real training. We value every single dog's life. We try to rescue dogs that are downtrodden, that have behavioral issues. Trainers like myself put all of our effort into making these dogs so that they can live with the family and they can have a chance. This is definitely an overall good thing. Like, I'm glad that we value animal lives more than we did 1,000 years ago. Like, that's a good place to have progress. We are definitely dealing with some issues because of it. Because back in the day, people were so reliant on instinct and purpose-driven dogs, they wouldn't have even considered getting a dog that was outside of the breed that was specifically bred for the task that they want them to do, because they didn't have the training skills to try to piece things together and make it work like we do today. Today you have people living with 3 Belgian Malinois in a high-rise apartment building. Everyone's running around with giant pit bulls, or they're trying to keep German short-haired pointers in their house. Today we have a huge problem with overbreeding, where 1,000 years ago, sure, they bred for looks, but remember, in the castle, the lapdogs, it was about looks, but it was honestly almost more important for them to be completely docile and still, because they didn't have the skills to fix it if they weren't. Today, people think that breeding just involves, oh, I have a purebred German Shepherd and I have another one over here and they're opposite sexes, so they're gonna make a good breeding pair. But what almost nobody does is consider the actual temperament of the dogs. So you take the wrong dog with the wrong genetics and you place them in the wrong environment, and then you provide them with zero training. You don't even use all of the resources and skills that we have today, and people wonder why it doesn't work out. And because of the fact that we value every animal life, now they go to the shelters where we don't want them to be put down. So they're just loading up shelters and people are rescuing them, passing it on to others. We have a huge mess going on. We essentially went from very tight, very specific bloodlines, all for a particular task, to we've just got dogs everywhere now. They have no task, they have no job, they're not fulfilled. They're not in the right household. They don't have any of the things that they need to be successful, yet somehow the expectation that you bring a dog home, turn them loose in your house, and they're just perfect, somehow that expectation has still survived through history.